everyone. This video is a book review, and I have not filmed a book review in several months, so I've decided to go easy on myself and select a book that is short, is straight to the point, and was relevant to what I was going through at the time. Because, as I mentioned in my update recently, I moved, so a lot of my energy and thoughts were on moving, organizing, decluttering. So I decided to pick a book related to that. And the book that we are reviewing is The Consumer Guide Quick Fixes Home Organization and Storage. And I don't know if this is a co-authored book or a singularly authored book, but the author is Mary Wynn Ryan. They don't have her name at the front, but it's inside. Now, I don't know where I got this book or how long I've had this book, but if I'm to take a wild guess, I may have had this book for several months, and I think my mother gave it to me, but I don't know where she got it from either. But I selected this book because my mind felt discombobulated as I was packing and trying to relocate and try to get everything together, and it just was overwhelming. Also, I really love reading about home organization and storage because that's an issue that I deal with. So I'm a clutter bug, but I don't know, it's like organized clutter. So my books that I have, all of my books are organized in their own little unique way. They're all cataloged, but yet it still seems like clutter, but they're compacted. The same with my art supplies. My art supplies, they're color coded, they have their little sets, but then when I create, it's just chaos and I'll be throwing things in there. So organization and decluttering is something that I have to stay on top with. I'm not Marie Kondo. I'm not one of those minimalist people. I will never be a minimalist. I don't know how they do it. I wish I could be one. It would probably save me money and time. But if you are like me and you're a maximalist, I think this book would be helpful for you. So, before I get into my review of this, I will tell you a little bit about the author or possibly co-author, Mary Wynn Ryan. Now, I went online to see if I could find any information about Mary Wynn Ryan. Does she have a website? She didn't have a website. I found that name for a Facebook and a LinkedIn, but I do not know if that is the particular author. And I didn't want to take her photo from Facebook. I didn't want to violate her privacy or anything. I also found a LinkedIn which didn't have a photo, so the most I'm gonna do is just post a picture of her her company. Now, this bio is almost 20 years old because this book was published in 2008. So I don't know how relevant it still is. I don't even know if she's still working, if she retired. I don't know if she's still alive. I honestly don't know. But this is her bio from 2008. Mary Wynn Ryan is the author of numerous interior design books, including The Ultimate Kitchen, Cottage Style, Urban Style, Decorating Kids' Rooms, and Garden Style. She has written about home furnishings and interior design for various magazines and served as Midwest editor of Design Times magazine. Ryan was also the director of consumer and trade marketing for the Chicago Merchandise Mart's Residential Design Center. She is president of Winning Ways Marketing, an editorial and marketing consulting firm that specializes in home design and decorating. So far from what I've seen with the pictures that I saw her on her Facebook, she's very involved in her community, very professional, has a nice little resume, so hopefully she's doing well. Now, this book is not too long. It's about 80 pages, so you could finish this book in either a day or 2 days, or if you're a fast reader, probably several hours. And the introduction gives you a couple of things that you can work with, but even though this book was very short, it had a lot of information in it. I was actually pretty surprised how detailed the author went into organizing different things. I was going to give it away, but I decided to keep the book because I feel it would be beneficial for me for future use. So the introduction is the time of your life has a clock. We all have the same 24 hours a day, no more, no less. How many hours do you lose because you can't find crucial paperwork such as bills, receipts, and kids' permission slips? Let's face it, we're disorganized, or when we're disorganized, even for good reasons, we put our money, our credibility, and our peace of mind at risk. When our whole house is a giant junk drawer, life is much harder than it has to be. Now, I am a recovering clutter bug disorganized person. However, I have drastically improved over the years. As a child, it was atrocious how disorganized I was. As a college student, it was even worse. I don't even know how I graduated college, honestly. It was probably just from the mercy of my statistics professor, for real. But as I've gotten older and had to manage my life, it's gotten easier. And one thing that really supercharged me into becoming very organized were the types of jobs that I had. So like working in the library helped me to become more organized. I ended up cataloging all of my books, and also watching budgeting channels on YouTube. That helped me to organize my money and get ahead of a lot of my bills because I was keeping track of everything. So as I put it into practice, as I put tracking my money into practice, tracking my books, using tracking systems, it got easier and easier. But I still like to read books about organizing and budgeting just to keep myself on my toes and re-inspire myself so that I can continue using my system. Sometimes we will create a system of efficiency, but we do not manage it. Like, we get comfortable and think that it's just going to keep rolling on its own. But, every once in a while you need to add oil to the wheels, or you need to update things. So if you are a clutter bug, it's okay. You can make it through. Are you way too busy to get organized? Start somewhere. Invest 15 minutes or half an hour a day, and you'll save twice that in aggravated hunting and foraging. Organization is liberation. I agree with that quote because when you're organized, it takes a lot of unnecessary stress off of your mind. You have more time to do the things that you love or other important tasks that'll free up your time. You'll also be seen as a responsible person. Sometimes people will like you, but they see you being disorganized and they're like, yeah, I don't want them to handle this, or they're not going to handle these types of affairs for me, if that makes any sense. So when you feel organized in your life, you'll feel not only empowered for yourself, but you will look like a powerful figure to others. It says you can get organized a little at a time. So don't sabotage yourself by saying you'd do it if you'd had more time. You will have more time. As soon as you take charge, you'll see. So chapter 1 was one of my favorite chapters because the author broke down the difference between calendars, planners, and lists. Now, I know some people will be like, those are completely different things. And you know, I thought the same thing too. However, I was utilizing some of the tools for so for example, I would use a calendar as a to-do list. I would use a planner as a to-do list. Whereas in chapter 1, she describes some of the best ways that you can use these tools effectively. So if you had a calendar, she says you use a calendar to see the big picture. And you use lists to get things done. You use a yearly planner to record internal deadline dates. On the road to long-term goals, such as buying a house or planning vacations. So a to-do list is basically short-term goals, and it's for things that you need to do today or within a week, but not like a month. But it's usually just a daily thing. It's shorter. Planner, calendar, longer term. She says for a calendar, create a central place near the phone to keep a handle on family dates and deadlines. Now, some of the things in this book I feel are kind of outdated. Unless you have a landline next to your calendar, it's, I mean, it's a new age, so your calendar might be on your phone. I'm not saying you can't use a phone. I'm just saying maybe using a paper calendar, or you could use your paper calendar as your hard copy and your phone calendar as something else, because you might lose your phone or whatever. But writing it down helps you keep track. It's ingrained in your mind. Since this book was 2008, and I don't know how many people had smartphones or all these new technological to-do lists and calendars, you can take some of the things in this book with a grain of salt, or you can just alter it for the new technology that you have now. Or if you don't want to use any technology and you want to go analog, it's still relevant to you. Use a large calendar that has the biggest squares you can find so you can fit everyone's events in each square. Choose one that has a blank area not allocated to a date so that you can make a quick note of something important where it won't get lost. Pick a calendar that's not too fussy and that lets you make notes and see what's going on even when you're in a rush. Shop office supply catalogs and stores for the calendar that works for you. Now, she mentions a lot about other people's schedules, your family members. Some of us don't have children. I don't have kids. Some of us don't have like an extreme full household, but the same can still apply if you're a boss, and you could use these techniques for your employees. You could use these techniques for like organization, or if you're working with other groups of people. You just replace the family with the other group of people, and it's basically the same concept. Then she has a picture of an accordion folder. Now, mind you, I'm kind of biased. I hate accordion folders. They get on my nerves. A lot of them are ugly unless they're hidden in something, but other than that, I don't like to use them. But she says an accordion folder is used when you just need to write something down and just throw it in the folder. But you have to go through it on a weekly basis. She says, keep written communications with deadline-sensitive information in an accordion-style folder next to the calendar. As soon as the item comes into the house, write the basics on the calendar. If you get really rushed and can't record the item right away, stash it in the folder and record it on the calendar later that day. She also says you have to go through the accordion folder or pocket at least twice a week to be sure that you have transferred key dates to the master calendar. Now, me personally, I don't want to do all that. I feel like if you are a forgetful person like me, if you put your stuff in this accordion folder, you're not going to be able to see it. So instead of an accordion folder, I would get a board. I'd either get a magnetic board where you can just write something on a piece of paper and then stick a magnet on it, or I would get one of those boards that were the foam, what do you call it, cork boards, where you can just put a push pin and put that there. But if you're one that if you don't see it, you don't remember, I would not recommend an accordion. I just wouldn't. You're not going to see it, or it might be hidden down deep in the accordion folder. Then she says each week you make a list, and then you go over that list once or twice a week for 10 minutes to go over with your family or whatever group you're working with. That way, if there's any changes or there's anything that you have to add that's new, you can just add it to the calendar. She also has you making short daily lists every night. I'm not going to remember to make a list at night. I might make it in the morning when things are fresh on my mind. Then she says, keeping updated lists is a new habit, so give yourself a month or two to make it part of your natural routine. Most people, even kids, find checking off items gives a sense of accomplishment as well as reminding them of what they still need to do. Kids are expected to use assignment notebooks in school, so it may be easier than you think. I don't know if these children now are still using assignment notebooks that aren't digital. We'll see. Maybe there's still some analog children. Then, chapter 2, she goes in depth about how to prioritize your time and get things done, and I really like it. I wish it was longer, but she only goes for a page and a half before going into shopping for groceries. But she says, if you don't do first things first, make sure you get the essential projects sometime during the day. Start early enough to finish what you start. Don't let the obvious, the handy, and the urgent tasks crowd out the actually important ones. Then, if you have a huge project, begin at the end. Determine the final deadline you need to meet in order to achieve your goal and work back from there. Set internal deadlines to make sure you stay on track throughout the project. So I've been working on this one project. It's been on my mind for maybe a year or two, but I just started working on it recently. And as I was working on it, something happened with my schedule at one of my jobs. So I got some hours drastically cut from one of my jobs, and I went from working 4 days a week to 2 days a week. Basically, it was a response. It was basically a punishment because I asked a simple question. But because of that whole situation, I decided that I needed to use those 2 days that were taken from me and reinvest them into myself. So I decided that I would work the same amount of hours that I did at the job, but I would only work on my own projects. Now, that was a really good experiment for me. And she mentions this in her book. She says, decide on the time of day when your energy level is highest to do your toughest chore. Now, my energy levels, whenever I'm peak creativity, it's sometime in the afternoon or later in the late afternoon, like 3 or 4 or 2, where I get my best ideas. But sometimes we're so trained to work for other people or to work in this mindless grind that we don't even know how to organize our own creative projects. We don't know how to start. If we're a writer, we have writer's block. If we're a musician, we have song blockages and all of that stuff. So making the project, basically using the Kaizen method to break down the project and really being serious about your own projects is something that will help. We prioritize everybody else's stuff before we prioritize our own things. The only time you're really supposed to prioritize somebody else's things over yours is maybe like if you have a child or if you're the caretaker of someone, or if you're responsible for someone, or if it's something important, maybe like a marriage or family. But other than that, there's really no reason to take your own time and not take it seriously. Just because you're not a world like David Bowie with a music career doesn't mean that you shouldn't put in the same amount of hours or the same amount of effort into creating your own musical career that as you do with your job, with your 9 to 5 or your 3 to 6 or 10 to 6 a.m. If you have trouble getting started in the morning, do as much as you can the night before. Lay out your clothes, measure the coffee, pack the lunches. Accept that certain projects such as home remodeling always take longer, sometimes significantly longer than anyone expects. The more unknowns in a project, the more possible delays. Interior deadlines can help somewhat, but don't plan a major home renovation 6 months before a home wedding. So sometimes we'll be beating ourselves up because we don't finish our projects when we want to finish them. We'll be like, I have to lose 70 pounds in a year, and you end up losing maybe 25 pounds. You just have to stop punishing yourself and rushing the process. There are things in nature that have to go through a certain process. If they do not go through that particular length of time is going to injure them or be a detriment to them. So, for one example, if a woman's preparing to have a baby and she's like, okay, I'm going to have my baby, I'm going to grow my baby, you want the baby to be in there a little over 9 months to make sure everything's okay. You don't want the baby to come at like 4 weeks. You don't want it to come at 6 weeks. Now, some babies will come that early, but that's not preferred. You want the baby to go through the whole process, get all the nutrients that they need, finish all of their development so that you can birth them and have a healthy child. You don't want to rush the seasons, because if you rush the seasons, it's going to throw everything haywire. Everything needs to happen in their particular season. If you rush through things, if you rush through projects, you're going to pay for it later. You rush into a marriage, you're going to pay for it later. Whether it be through divorce papers or just having just an unsettled feeling during this partnership. So you have to know that everything has their own allotted time. Some things you can alter, and some things would be better not to alter. So don't beat yourself up about it. If you want your room to be spotless and it's not spotless the first time, maybe it'll be spotless the 100th time because you've had so much practice. Set realistic goals. Don't try to do too much in one day or even 1 year. If you find yourself constantly behind schedule, keep a notepad with you and write down everything you do for a few days. Then look at the list objectively to determine whether you've attempted to do too much in a short time period. That's how I felt when I was working on my project. I was working on this manuscript. I was working on my big project. I was trying to make buttons. I was trying to pay bills. It was just too much. I was deleting 6 months of emails. And I was like, look, this is too much for 3 or 4 hours. We're just going to have to designate certain days for these things so we won't be all over the place discombobulated. So if you have 10 projects, maybe narrow it down to 2. The most important. And then when you're done with those, or you're almost done with them, you can start on the next one. Same with reading. Break it down into manageable chunks. But then she goes, how to shop efficiently, like creating menus and all of that. And that was pretty okay. She also has shopping for clothing. Another chapter I liked was chapter 3, which was how to organize household paperwork. And some of this, like I said, some of this is still relevant. Others, you might be completely in the digital age and it won't matter to you. Like put a check from your checkbook in your wallet case. I mean, people are still using checks and everything, but a lot of people are just using card or cash. She says use file folders in assorted colors from the office supplies store. You don't have to use the file folder colors. You could write it down or you could create your own system. I have binders that I keep most of my papers in. I'll have a binder for my manuscripts, binders for certain notes. That way I can just grab the binder and it's all in there. On this page, she has how to set up a filing system. And it talks about what to file at home and what to store in a bank deposit box. So if you have a bank deposit box, some of the things that you can file in there are personal papers, like birth certificates, marriage licenses, house deed, and title, financial holdings, and list of valuables. Whereas if you're at home, you have your banking information, your car, a copy of your will, investment records. And what's good now is they have little booklets where you can store all of your information in one place. So God forbid if something happens to you, people can just grab the binder or whatever the folder that you have it in, and everything's taken care of. That's how my Aunt Leveda was. My Aunt Leveda was an educator, and she was so organized. When she died, everything was in order. She had already chosen what she wanted to wear for her funeral. She had chosen the casket. She already had the plot already chosen. She paid off the whole funeral. Everything was paid for. Like, everything was in order. They didn't have to worry about anything. So, with the important things, there's never a too much. Dotting your I's, crossing your T's, especially when it comes to wills, because families have been torn apart from people arguing over wills and properties and all of these different things. So just be sure that you organize the important things and keep them in their proper place, and share some information with a trustworthy individual. Now, chapter 4, I got really overwhelmed because this was probably the longest chapter in the book, and it was about organizing your home office. And I was just like, look, I don't got time for all this. Some of the stuff I feel was really outdated, but others I think were relevant. But she has how to plan for the space. You have to measure the space. Then you have to measure the furniture. And I was like, look, I don't want a home office. My home office would probably just be a table and something else. Like, and she even went into detail about like figuring out the lines of the phone, figuring out where to put this. It was just a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, when I got to this chapter, my brain started just zoning in and out. Especially by page 27 when she's talking about office furniture. This is one old computer. She was talking about buying an angled desk that's shaped like an L or a U. Like, girl, I don't have a desk anymore. I left my desk at the old place, so I am deskless. And since we're in this digital age now, some people's office is on the road, or they'll just take their computer with them because they don't have like, I'm assuming this is before the iPad and the type of laptops that we have now. But yeah, I feel like chapter 4 was very outdated. But she does mention office decor and kid zones and all that. Then chapter 5, she talks about how to get rid of your clutter. And it's mostly just words. I mean, of course, it's words, it's a book, but sometimes I just want pictures. Because after I've gone through chapter 4, I'm like, look, my brain is too tired from all these L-shaped, U-shaped desks. I just need pictures. Show me the pictures. She does have pictures in this book. I just think she could have had more, but she's not the publication company, so I guess this is on them, since they're Publications International Limited. I hope that they come out with a second edition or an updated edition of this book and just update it for modern times and keep up, or add their own commentary in there too. But it's the basics, like toss, repair, recycle, blah, 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 blah. She also has a chapter on organizing closets, but my closet isn't that big. But by the time I reached page 63 and she started talking about clothes hangers, I was like, look, I'm mentally checked out, honestly. But listen to this. She's like, don't use plain wire hangers. They tangle because their necks are too small and narrow. They can damage your clothing. Clothing straps always fall out of them. Then she just talks about the difference between the wire hangers and the plastic tubular hangers and the attachable hanger. I was just like, this is too many. Maybe because I'm not really a clothes person, it just went over my head. I mean, I read the chapter. It just was like, I don't care. Plastic hanger, wire hanger, laundry pin. Like, are you hanging? Okay. And if I don't have a hanger, you're being folded and placed in a tote. And we'll call it a day. But I feel like it's giving obsessive, but I understand where she's coming from, because some people are fashionistas or fashionistas, or they work in the fabric industry or the modeling industry or the clothing industry, so they need to know these types of things so their clothes will always stay ironed and unwrinkled and in the best condition. So I understand, but me not being a clothes person or a fashionista, I'm just like, does it fit in my closet? Okay. Do we have a $1 hanger from the dollar store? Great. Okay, it's hanging. We're good. We're good. How to store folded clothes and small accessories. Now this is just starting to sound like Marie Kondo before Marie Kondo. And I have tried her little folding thing, which is cool. There's only so much obsessed I can do. And I'm not saying this to be mean to the author or anything. It's just a lot. But if you like going into detail, this is a book for you. Even like how to store jewelry. She's like, store jewelry so that it's safe from damage and tangles. If possible, choose a unit that will let you easily see all your options. Be realistic about how much jewelry you have and actually wear. Individual bags and pouches protect jewelry, but make it harder to see what you have. Sterling silver jewelry may be stored in anti-tarnish bags, but pearls are delicate and shouldn't be in contact with any chemically infused material. This includes faux pearls, as they are made of genuine mother of pearl. 18 or 24 karat gold is softer than 14 karat and is easier to bend or scratch. Sterling silver is also relatively soft. Precious metals should be stored in felt-lined drawers to prevent damage. I would have never known of this because I don't know. I'm just like, when I first read this, I hate to say this, I was like, this sounds like rich people problems, but okay. I mean, sterling silver isn't, but the pearls and the carats, gold, and I think this is good to know, especially if you're trying to level up in your life. So that part, but it was at that point I was like, this lady is amazing and scary at the same time, because you are telling me things I've never even come across in another organization book. So it was at that point that I decided, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep this book in my collection. Then she has maximizing existing storage space. At that point, I would just throw things away. But then again, look at all the books I have behind me. Am I going to throw them away? No. Until I read them, you're staying on there. But yeah, in this picture, it's like, it's one of those shoe holders, but you're putting dolls in it. I don't know if this book is still in print, but I'm sure you can find it on Thrift Books somewhere. She ends with improving kitchen storage, boosting bedroom storage, buy 2 letter size, 2 drawer file cabinets, and it's just a lot. It's just a lot. But even though this book went from simplified to quiet luxury, I still think it's relevant. I think that if you are one that too loves reading about home organization, you'll find something in here that will be added to your arsenal of techniques. So I would rate this book, I would rate it a 3.5. Fudge Buckets. And the reason I would rate it that is because at a certain point, I wanted more pictures. I wanted a step-by-step visual, but I did not get it. Another reason is because it was extremely wordy and some parts were outdated. But I was very impressed that for such a small book, it housed a lot of information. So I did finish the book feeling somewhat empowered and utilizing taking these methods and utilizing them into my life so that my life could be more efficient. But yeah, that is how I feel about this book. So I'm going to be reviewing another book very soon because there was another book that I finished. I've also selected the book for Ida B. Wells' birthday and the one for Emmett Till's birthday, so those book reviews will be coming soon. First, Ida B. Wells, because her birthday is July 16th, and then Emmett Till on July 25th. Oh, and then I won't be doing any review on Osho because one of you told me about him, and I was like, okay. So I won't be reviewing his book. I'll just replace it with a book on meditation or something. But yeah, that's all I have to say, everyone. Talk to you later.